Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe show, where for the first time in 2024 in the league, we're here to discuss a win. Jack, how are you doing?
Very, very well. Fulham 3, Bournemouth 1. The smile is still on my face. And Joe managed to catch you at half time as well, which made it even better.
Yeah, it was really fun to see you at half time. And at that time, we were thinking, Jack, is it going to be a bit like Burnley? We were 2-0 up at the time. We'll get onto the game. Thankfully, it didn't. So we're positive today. But as always, first, a quick word from our sponsor, Green King Sport, for the entire 2023 to 24 season. Fulhamish is sponsored by Green King Sport, and we are very grateful. And the message, as always, if you cannot get to a game, whether it be Fulham or otherwise, get yourself down to a Green King Sport pub and enjoy the action there. And Jack, this weekend, obviously, Fulham are not on TV. We're at the 3:00 game on the Saturday, but there is still a great slate of Premier League action across the weekend.
Oh, yeah, no, literally. This is, the season is ramping up into its exciting stage. Early kickoff, Brentford, who got a big win last week against Wolves, they host Liverpool in the title race. Fulham, of course, play at 3 against Villa. The late kickoff, Manchester City hosting Chelsea. And that will be a very good game. Wallen Green, Chelsea. On Sunday, huge game. Sheffield United against Brighton, who they've already played each other in the FA Cup this season, haven't they? And Brighton
They
won, I
have,
think,
yeah.
like 5-2 or something. They won 4 or 5.
I think it was João Pedro hat-trick, that one, wasn't it?
Oh, he's good. And then the late game down at the Kenny, Luton hosting Manchester United. I'm sure that will be a very good game. United on good form. And that's who we play next week at Old Trafford. We'll preview that next week. Everton, Palace, the pride of South London on the Monday Night Football. Again, Palace on the TV.
Yeah.
But Joe, it doesn't seem like we have to worry anymore about things down at the bottom because we are on 29 points, 10 points above Everton. And dare I say we're on the beach. I say we're maybe one more win away from the beach, but it's a great feeling.
Yeah, I think we're on the beach.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think we're on the beach. I think we'll be fine. I mean, what's that now? 29 points. We're saying we think that it could be about 36 to stay up. If we don't get 7 points between now and the end of the season, honestly, we should be relegated to the conference, let alone the championship, because that would be an appalling last, 10, 15 games. I was really impressed with our performance on Saturday. That goes first and foremost. Obviously, the disappointment of the Burnley game, the team putting it behind them, and the way they started on Saturday was fantastic. And not just going 1-0 up early doors through that Lewis Cook mistake, but the way we continued the momentum after that. Willian was electric. Muniz had the game of his life in a Fulham shirt. But I thought that everyone pulled their weight. Our left-hand side was, I think, back to its best with Robinson overlapping. And I just thought it felt like the goal was coming every time we came forward. I was shocked when I looked at the stats and found out that we'd only had 7 shots in the entire game, with 6 of them being on target, which is a phenomenal, efficiency rate, and obviously 3 of them going in. But it was a bit different from us in terms of when we did go forward, we were very, very clinical, and every chance was a big one, rather than previously where we've almost gone the other way in terms of what Bournemouth produced, which was a lot of low quality chances throughout the game and a lot of, territory, but not really converting that. Obviously, they did get 1 goal, but I was very, very pleased by the way we kept not only Dominic Solanke, who we were both expecting to get his customary goal against us, but also their other forwards, both the ones that started and the ones that came off the bench when they were trying to chase the game. We kept them all very, very quiet. So, Jack, I thought this was a good performance, not a great one. I thought it was a great first half, and then the second half was just fine. We just dealt with the pressure defensively, good, set up well, reduced the high quality chances. But the perfect antidote after that Burnley game, and especially, I think we have to mention the fact that it did go to 2-1, which was your prediction, Jack. You said that we'd go 2-0 up and they'd get 1 back. And I thought of you when that goal from Senesi came in, because I was like, this is not ending 2-1 at this rate. The way they started the second half, I was getting a bit nervy. The last thing I expected was us to instantly go up the other end and go 3-1 up. So huge credit to the team and credit to Marco Silva.
Yeah, no, it was like Marcus Silva's first season in charge, where if we concede, we go up the other end and equalise or score again straight
Yeah,
away. It was a great reaction to that goal because it basically, every single Fulham fan in the ground when they made it 2-1 would have been thinking, here we go again.
yeah.
By the way, great finish from Senesi. The way he hooks it up,
Yeah,
that's like prime sort of like Wayne Rooney, no, Dimitar Berbatov sort of stuff. He takes the ball down and swivels on the turn, and it was a fantastic goal. However, great response from Fulham. Good ball from Willian. Brilliant from, I think it might be Bobby Reed. I think it was. Sort of makes this like run inside the box, which detracts the defender away and allows the space for Muniz at the back post to on
yeah,
the volley. Good finish, I think. And
yep,
let's talk about Muniz because we can't, like he scored a brace. We can't just ignore that. All round
yeah,
game, brilliant. And we were saying this is a great argument. We're gonna now say. You basically said to me at halftime, you know, the fact that Muniz has come in now that started and scoring goals. Now Brozier's obviously in the team as well, and we've got that clause with Brozier that he has to start maybe 10 games, and then if not, we pay them 4 million. And you basically turned it around and said we're basically paying Chelsea 4 million to have another competent Premier League striker in Rodrigo Muniz. And you put it like that, it actually sounds like a nice deal because we nobody like wants Muniz to fail. Everyone was impatient because he's obviously struggled, but now he's scoring. Well, at least he scored 3 in the last 2. That's fantastic for him. His confidence is fantastic for us as supporters to watch him do that. And if it happens where Brozier doesn't get the 10 starts, so we have to pay Chelsea the money, that will only be because someone else is doing as good, if not better, than Brozier would be doing, which means we're getting points, we're scoring goals. Therefore, £4 million, fine. That's fine by me. Obviously, I want Brozier to come in and but then again, like if we're going to go onto our lineups a bit later about Villa, like you don't drop Muniz after a brace, surely. But anyway, all round game, Tom Cairney. Tom Cairney, just like honestly, so good. His link up with Willian is so joyous. Paulinho with surpassing 100 tackles or getting to 100 tackles again this season. Like it's absolutely insane what we're doing and what the numbers he's doing this season. Tim Ream, very composed, very good. And it was a weird game, wasn't it? Because the second half, we had that one goal and we didn't really attack again in the second half. It was basically all Bournemouth. And there were a lot of like nervous jitters from the fans. But even like in like the 80th, 85th minute, I was like, we're 3-1 up. Like, I'm sure we'll see this out at 3-1. Even in added time, people will still get. I was just like, there's no need to get all nervous and stuff. But obviously, that is, as a football fan, you're going to get nervous, given recent results. I never felt Bournemouth were that threatening in the second half. Couple of balls across the box. The one shot they had over, like right at the end of the game, I thought we dealt with them fairly well. And also in the first half, sorry, I'm going along a lot here. Willian should have made it 2-0. He sort of made it quite obvious where he was going. It was a good save from Neto. Robinson with a really good effort, well saved. And I know it was only 7 shots in the game, but we made the most of those 7, scored 3, could have probably scored 5. And Joe, happy days, Fulham up to 29. Any more on the performance and standouts? Castagna and maybe the likes of players who came off the bench. It was good to see Adama and Wilson return.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned him already, so it's not a new name, but I thought Tim Ream was great. I thought he won everything. It was his best performance of the season. And in recent memory, I thought he was great. There's not as many to choose from this season, obviously, because he's had his injury and then couldn't get back into the team straight away. But loved to see it. I thought they dealt with Solanke, him and Diop really, really well, which was great. And, it's what you want. You want competition for spots. We've got Bassi coming back and Iwobi, as we'll come on to talk about when we preview Villa in a second. But I didn't feel too concerned about Bournemouth getting back into the game. I didn't feel fully comfortable until, from the sounds of it, a little bit later on than you did, just because I thought if they do get one back, it's going to be very nervy. But that when Burnley got one back, it seemed inevitable that they would equalise. That's what I was nervous about if it went to 3-2. Here's a question for you, Jack, and the last thing I'll say. You mentioned we didn't attack much after that Muniz third goal, which is completely true. And I've researched this just before we jumped on. How many shots did we have after Muniz made it 3-1?
How many shots?
On
None.
target, off target, just total. Yeah,
None.
correct. 0. We didn't have a single other
I
shot.
don't remember anything.
No, 0. And I don't mind that. But what I would say is against better teams, I didn't like the way that we were giving back possession to Bournemouth so easily. I think that we defended very well when they did have it. I'm very nervous about doing that against better teams, and we're coming up against them now.
Well, it happened a lot against Arsenal. Villa. Even when we beat Arsenal, we were giving the ball away too often and letting them come onto us a little bit. And obviously, we did really well to see it out. And obviously, we did break away and have chances ourselves against Arsenal. But to have no shots after the
52nd minute, 3rd minute?
Yeah, that's not great numbers. And coming up against the Villa team, who are not on great form right now, but they're potent and they've got a good team. Should we get onto it? Oh, there's a final word I just want to say on, doesn't have anything to do with this game, but welcome back, Bassi. Welcome back, Iwobi. Give Iwobi give them both, but especially Iwobi. Give him a good reception on Saturday, because he's had to come off social media because of abuse he got after the African Cup of Nations final. I didn't watch the final, but apparently he played well. He didn't really put much of a foot wrong, and I think it was after he was substituted. It was when Ivory Coast went on to score the winner.
Yeah, I watched the final. I mean, Bassi had a pretty good game, cleared one off the line. Iwobi, like most of Nigeria's attackers, weren't really in it too much. But I thought in general it was just quite a strange performance from Nigeria in a final. Regardless of that, I'm almost just saying no one really stood out good or bad. It was a bit of a cagey final. But regardless of whatever you say, I mean, whether it be a Fulham player, a Nigeria player, an Ivory Coast player, whoever they play for, club or country, the abuse is ridiculous. And so, we need to make sure that he feels the love on Saturday. And that's it really.
Marco put an arm around him.
Yeah, and personally, absolutely delighted that they are now back. I wish that they won the final, because it would have been great to have them back with like top confidence and feeling the top of their game. Still had a great run. So many Fulham links in that final. Obviously, congratulations to John Michel Seri, and also to Fulham old boy Seka Fofana. We have not forgotten you. Please come back one day, because you are sensational nowadays. Ola Aina, obviously, and Lookman playing for Nigeria as well. Truste Kong, who was in the Fulham Academy, as was pointed out on Twitter. So many links. But they're back for the squad against Villa, Jack. And assuming that, and knowing that they are, they're not coming back from injury, they're coming back from playing football, they're fit. What do you think will line up like against Villa? Or, sorry, should I say, how would you line up? Not how do you think will line up?
Knowing Marco, he will ease them back in, I reckon, which is frustrating because I want Iwobi in the team. So if I was Marco, this is the 11 I'd go with.
Yeah.
Who's playing Villa? Leno in goal, left back Robinson, at the back Bassi and Diop, and then right back. Tete was injured, wasn't he? So it's Castagna, Paulinho, Kenny, Iwobi in the 10, Wilson, Willian, Muniz, which is harsh on Bobby Reid. Maybe Bobby over Wilson, actually.
I kind of agree with your team, though, to be honest, even with Wilson. Bobby had a good game the other day.
Really good game. Really good game.
Wilson, I'd love to see Wilson get a run in the team. He was playing really well before he got that injury. I'm also thinking, not for me from the start. No. Off the bench, 100% yes. And against his former club, it's Golazo written all over it. It's probably not. It's probably off with a knock, with all due respect to him. I would love Tosin to be back for this one, because I'd love it to be Bassi and Tosin, as we had for the last time against Arsenal. Diop and Ream, it's a bit harsh on both of them, but at the same time, I think that the partnership to bring us forward as a club is Bassi and Tosin. I'd love to see it in the flesh again. We're going to need to be on it.
You say that, but this is a player who hasn't committed his future to the club yet.
it's a
in
player that
Tosin.
hasn't committed his future to the club. That is very true. But at the same time, who would you rather playing for us long term? Regardless of what we've got to do with it right now, would you rather it be Tosin or Diop? Because if you play
I think
Diop over him
Tosin.
every game, he's definitely not going to sign. As of right now, there is still a chance he stays, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
agree.
But I do completely appreciate the point in that, he hasn't committed. But I think that we'd have a better chance of beating Villa if we had Tosin rather than Diop, personally.
Cool. Definitely.
Solanke, we kept him quiet. Can we do the same to Watkins, Jack?
I hope so. Aston Villa, let me just get up their form, because obviously they lost in the week against Chelsea in the FA Cup. They lost to Manchester United in the league on Sunday. But previously they beat Sheffield United 5-0. I mean, let's not ignore that. I know Sheffield United, obviously they won last weekend, but they were terrible that day. But they did also lose 3-1 to Aston Villa, which ended their terrific home run at Villa Park. I watched them. The last time I saw them play was against in the flesh was against Chelsea in the FA Cup 0-0 draw, and they were good, like really good. Matty Cash, I like Matty Cash. Boubacar Kamara is out for the season. That's a massive blow for them. Although Douglas Luiz is a good player, John McGinn is an absolute workhorse. When you watch John McGinn, you're like, he's so good, because he's not like he's not the most like technically gifted player. He's got a great shot on him. His work rate's incredible, and he managed to retain the ball quite well and ping it off to players and make darting runs. And I really like McGinn as a player, and I think that it's going completely off tangent, but Scotland's chances at the Euros, if they've got McTominay and McGinn and a couple of more decent players like Andy Robertson and stuff like that, they've got a decent team, and hence they qualified for the tournament. But Villa are a good team. Just because they've lost 2 games to Chelsea and United, no shame in well, there's some shame in losing to Chelsea, I suppose, but this isn't like they've lost to a team that are like far worse than them. So they'll come to the Cottage in needing to bounce back. Of course, when we last played Villa at the Cottage, it was Gerrard's last game, and then they wiped the floor of us earlier this season, and then beat us. What was this? 1-0. Tyrone Mings. That was a very forgettable game last season.
It was
at Villa Park. I went to it.
We had
it was
one shot.
rubbish.
20 seconds in, didn't we? It was
Solomon
ridiculous.
thought he scored. No, was it Solomon?
It might have been Solomon or Pereira, one of the two.
I think it was Pereira, actually. Anyway, Joe, Villa are a tough team. Martinez in goal. He'll frustrate the crowd, I'm sure, if things are going their way.
He's going to frustrate the hell out of me, Jack. I already know it. By the way, any goalie that wears short sleeves already just does my absolute Swede in, because they're just always the biggest wind-up merchants.
Bailey and Diaby, there's some good options. Zaniolo off the bench. I mean, just look at their team that they've had. They play it as McGinn obviously playing a little bit further forward. Jacob Ramsey coming back into the fold as well. Kamara obviously went off injured. Diego Carlos Longlay's been playing recently as well. And Moreno at left back. I remember we were linked with Moreno a couple of years ago. I'm obviously I'm not nervous, because if we lose, it's whatever. It's another loss. But if we win, I think my primary aim for the season now, given we're out of everything, is I just want to finish above Chelsea again.
Yeah. Finish top of the West London mini league. Ideal.
Yeah. Or Brentford as well. Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of comments about Villa's home form versus away. Obviously, it slipped off slightly at home the last 2 league games. Well, if you look at the last 4, they also drew with Sheffield United, and they nearly lost that one. They're 6th in the league for away form. So, they're no mugs away. I mean, there's this sort of narrative that they struggle a little bit more, and that is true, they do, but nowhere near as much as it would be made out. They've won 5, drawn 3, and only lost 4. I know that a few of the ones that they've lost have been to the absolute top teams in the league. For example, I remember them going to Liverpool early on in the season and losing convincingly. There's no real shame in that. I think it's going to be a really tough game, and I've got to be honest, I don't normally say this when it's us at home, not against a top 6 team, but I would take a point. And the reason I say that is because I think that 4 points out of Bournemouth and Villa at home is a great return. We've then got a few more tough games coming up at home. I'm loving this little home run we're on at the moment, Burnley aside, in the league, where since that international break in November, we've played Wolves, we played West Ham, we've played Forest, we've played Arsenal, we've played Everton, we've played obviously Bournemouth on the weekend, and we played Burnley. The Burnley loss and the Everton draw aside, we've won the rest, and we've only let in 3 goals.
Wow.
And so that's a great return. We've scored loads of goals at home in that time as well. Again, Everton and Burnley aside. But those games happen.
Yeah.
And, if we can score the first goal, I really back us to potentially win this one. But I am being completely honest here when I say I would take a point. My score prediction for the game is that we'll get a point. And I think this will be another high-scoring game. I think we'll struggle against them a lot more defensively than we did against Bournemouth, just by the nature of the team they've got. But I can see us hurting them as well, based on what I've seen in the last few defeats and games in general. I think this one's going to be 2-2, Jack. Desmond. I think it's going to be a really entertaining draw, which I see as quite a good result. Obviously, hoping that we can get out the win.
Yeah, I mean, they're in far better nick than honestly, chalk and cheese the way in terms of the last time they came here, we wiped the floor of them 3-0. Mm-hmm. This is going to be tough. I mean, I was at the Spurs game. They went to Spurs and won. I mean, that was very impressive. Their last away defeat came against Manchester United, where they were 2-0 up on Boxing Day and ended up losing the game, which was very disappointing on their end. Yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, I love this fixture because it reminds me of that amazing game, the 17-18 game at home. Sessegnon goal, Floyd Ayite from about 40 yards, chipped the keeper, just sort of lobbed it in, really. But this is going to be tough. I mean, Villa have come on leaps and bounds since then. Their overall team is good. They're still in Europe. I would obviously take a point as well. I think that I'm actually going to say 2-2. I agree. I think that we've got enough. I'm going to back Muniz to score again. I think Muniz will take the lead. Watkins will score, and then I think Watkins will make it 1-1 before the break. 2-1 Villa. It will be Leon Bailey, and I think Fulham equalise from the penalty spot.
Oh, Willian?
Who's going to take a penalty? Willian from the penalty. If he's still on. If not, maybe TC. Maybe.
Like it.
By the way, TC got an absolute ball to the face.
In the face. Yeah.
He saw the funny side of it. But yeah, 2-2 would be good. And then obviously we go to Old Trafford. I'm not going to go to Old Trafford. I just can't be bothered, really. We've been there twice last season, and we missed a penalty in the last day of the season, and obviously we know what happened in the FA Cup. So no point going back, not even for Courtyard, the £2.20 cocktails.
I don't like Old Trafford. It's falling down, and that's not just the chance. When I've been, it's absolutely grim. But what a chance we've got to get something there. But we say this every time. Against United, I don't know what it is. We seem to outplay them every single time we ever play against them in terms of everything.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you watch the game of football and you watched it up until every single shot was taken, I think you would think that we won every single game against United comfortably. Like, I don't know if in my head this is making sense, but like if you up till Mitrovic strikes that penalty, for example, you don't know where it goes. Up until Willian shoots in the FA Cup quarter-final and he's curling. Like, if you watched it up until those moments, you think we absolutely wiped the floor with them.
Yeah.
But we somehow always lose, and we normally lose in the most stupid, comical, last-minute circumstances ever. Don't get me started on that lockdown game when we were already down. And then Cavani scored a wonder goal, which was literally just offside. It was literally just offside. And then the Premier League decided to ignore that. And I don't know why my head. Yeah, there's going to be another edit of my head probably floating somewhere in another dimension. But you know what?
Brilliant.
We will be there. And Jack,
well, we won't be there. We're not going to Old Trafford.
In fact, I will literally be anywhere else but there. I'll be in a Green King Sport pub. Is where I'll be. But first we'll be at home against Villa, and it's going to be a barrel of laughs, and it's going to be another great day.
Yeah, I really enjoy, last few times I've gone to the cottage in my seat, we've been 2-0 up at half time. I think it was to Forest and to obviously to Bournemouth, and just having a great time at the concourse, having a nice pint half time. But yeah, well, that's that for today. We'll discuss Man United next week, but Joe's already given us his 2 pence on it. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching. Enjoy the game if you're going on Saturday, and if you're not, then I hope you enjoy it wherever you're watching or following.
Just looking at some of the stats this season for Fulham, we've scored 33 goals and we've conceded 39. And obviously we had a huge trouble scoring goals at some point this season, but we're doing all right. Palace have scored 27. Everton, who should have 10 points more, have scored 26. Burnley have scored 25. Sheffield United scored 22. 33 is pretty decent. If we compare that to some of the teams near the top, that's the same amount of goals as United have scored this season. So we're doing all right. Fulham are doing fine. And Joe, to be fair, like another mid-table season, fine by me. This is great. I'm loving it.
Fine by me, but what I do want to make sure, and this is getting way ahead of myself, is we need to make sure that we don't stagnate. Like, we need to push on next season. I feel like this season, like, we've got away with it slightly in terms of I don't think we had the windows that we needed to strengthen. And we're lucky that we've still got a core group of players that are fantastic, a manager that's fantastic. And we're better than most teams in the bottom half easily. Going into next season, I really hope that we can use this as a springboard to push on, take advantage of being in London, of hopefully having money to spend, and really just kicking on. Because halves, I should say, like the game in the second half, less so, but the first half, I think, showed we have got a fantastic team. And if we added to it, we could cause some of the other teams some major, major issues. And I hope that Saturday proves this when we take on Villa.
Brilliant. Well said. It's a big summer for Fulham, and that's all we've got really to sort of look forward to now, really. I obviously love watching Fulham play week in, week out, but in terms of progression, we said the same thing last year and we went backwards. We sold Mitrovic. But Money Moon is, if he gets another 10, 12 before the end of the season, we could sell him off for 50 million for someone or tie him down to a new contract and he could be our main striker for years to come. You just never know. Football's a very funny game, but we love it, and that's why we go week in, week out, although we won't be at Old Trafford. Take care, guys. Come on, Fulham.